Move on. We're going to get Peter Whittle soon, but let's have a chat now with Katie Hopkins. Brexit is broken, and now, really, and now the European Council President Donald Tusk has said enough progress has been made to move to the next phase of talks in Brussels. Really? Nigel Farage has been in America giving speeches. A lot of people are saying he should be back here in Britain sorting the mess out. Meanwhile, big decisions this week on who's going to be the next UKIP leader. But can anybody really deliver Brexit? I think the scarecrow, Theresa May, has been a complete and utter dead loss. What do you think? Pick up the phone and give us a bell if you want to talk about it. And if you haven't seen Katie Hopkins' brilliant video today called Think of the EU Like a Penis when it's in, you know, then check it out. It's very funny, very cheeky, and I'm delighted to say Katie joins us now. Hiya, Katie.
How are you doing? Are you well?
Not too bad, but what on earth do you mean? Think of the EU like a penis when it's in, you know. It's great. It reminds me of some very old playground jokes, but we'll put that to one side. What's your point?
Well, my point is, you know, when the politicians have let us down to the point where it seems that even the simplest idea cannot be understood. The idea that 17.4 million people definitely said we wanted out, and we definitely said leave. And at no point, at any point in time, would that have meant staying in the single market or staying in any of the forums of Europe that are trying to keep us in. I decided I would take the analogy down to a level that even men can understand. And given that men tend to think with their genitals, I decided that using the penis analogy, therefore, would help those idiots in Brussels who've probably never used their penis in their life to say that out is out, and when it's in, you can tell it's in, usually. So it's a sort of a crass analogy, I take that. But I just think that, look, ultimately, I feel like our country, never in the whole of my lifetime have I known people feel so let down by politicians across both parties or all parties. And never have I felt a sense of people feeling such despondency in terms of what on earth was the point and what on earth will persuade people to go back to the ballot box? Because I don't see people feeling motivated to do that.
And this weekend was the classic, wasn't it? You had people from Nick Clegg wanting another referendum. I'm not quite sure what Jeremy Corbyn was trying to say on the Andrew Marr show, but as you rightly say, which part of leave do they not understand? And then they make out that we're the knuckle-dragging morons who don't understand what we were voting for. I think everybody knew what they were voting for on that Independence Day. It's an insult to us, isn't it?
Of course, and I feel, you know, there's this sort of sense that, for example, you know, the Labour Party conference, they get a choice of things that they will discuss, and despite the fact that 70% of Labour strongholds voted leave, Momentum sent an email out the night before to make sure that Brexit wasn't part of any discussion in order that there wasn't disagreement or disunity at the conference. I think it's that level of cowardice where we're just seeing people fail to even talk about or discuss or negotiate or accept that we have our view. And you'll have seen with AFD doing so strongly, performing so strongly in Germany, are broadcasters unable to even talk about or fathom or allow an AFD individual on the air to say why they've done so strongly. We just have to act in disbelief, although many of us, of course, you and I and your listeners, understand perfectly why AFD have done so well in Germany.
Yeah, but of course the mainstream media, particularly the BBC and Sky, would like to say that they're Nazis when they're nothing like Nazis. They are right-wing, but they are not Nazis. And it's been an absolute disgrace the way they covered that, because I think, as you're suggesting, the reason why people voted that way there, the reason why people voted for Donald Trump, and the reason why we voted for Brexit is that we were fed up of the status quo, of politicians promising everything and delivering nothing.
Absolutely, and I do see some of your listeners and people's point in terms of Farage being over in Alabama. He's campaigning for the Republican candidate that Donald Trump is not backing. Donald Trump is backing the other candidate. Yeah. But I do feel the sense, as much as I think Farage should be given a knighthood for his work in getting Brexit on the table and part of the discussion and getting a referendum, I do think it's time that one of the individuals who stood to lead us to Brexit stayed in the game and actually took us over the line as well. I think it's all very well getting us to the point of the referendum. What we had is sort of three members of a relay team. We didn't have the fourth member to take the baton over the line, and that turns out to be quite critical.
And why do you think they haven't? Why do you think Farage has now got his radio show, of course? He's also doing the American speaking circuit. Why do you think he hasn't wanted to carry on, or even now been tempted to come back? Because he quashed all those rumours 2 days ago that he was going to form a new party. What's going on there?
Yeah, I think, as much as we all, I'm sure, support the fact that he got us a referendum, no one can take that away from Farage. I think narcissists and ego-driven individuals who have always been the centre of everything, and that is Farage. I'd say if he was sat next to me, which he isn't, they enjoy the attention. Farage always enjoyed being that guy, and he's still enjoying that now. And it's another moment, a Farage moment, isn't it? Because he's able to do the American circuit, he can do American networks, and he has my radio show now. But I think what the problem, and possibly what more people would be calling out for, instead of just going good old Farage, top bloke, is Farage, where are you now? Farage, you got us the referendum. You now need to take the baton and take it over the line, or shut up and let someone else do it. Because there is a sense of it's all very well being a voice of the dissenting 17.4. We now need a leader for the 17.4 to kind of get this thing reanimated, because I think people do feel a sense of it going nowhere. And I might be part of that problem as well. There's no point me moaning on and not doing something more about it. And I don't have the solution or the answer to that right now.
Do you think that's going to come from UKIP? I mean, Anne-Marie Waters, Peter Whitlow, or is UKIP done and dusted, so to speak?
Yeah, I don't think it can come from UKIP. I think it has to come from hurting people at the ballot box and showing that Theresa May will not win the next election without standing down a new Tory leader like Rees-Mogg, but probably not Rees-Mogg, prepared to take us forward in a more meaningful and Brexit manner. Otherwise, Labour are going to get in, and I don't think UKIP can restart. And I certainly don't think we need Farage coming in and knocking out Anne-Marie, who's worked jolly hard, to be fair to her. We don't need him kind of riding into town on his horse and being the great saviour. I don't think that's helpful at all. I think stay on the speaking circuit and stay doing radio.
What did you make of the speech in Florence by Theresa May?
Oh, my God. I mean, even when I saw, the leak, the backdrop, her speech backdrop leaked early in the morning. There was images of this backdrop she was going to stand in front of when she gave her talk. And it was basically, you probably saw, there's this sort of grey, bland thing she was stood in front of, which made me want to vomit on sight. And then it was like, unified globe, unified planet, we are one planet, one people. It was, basically what you'd expect from the Chuffing Green Party if they were having a particularly sour day. And there she stood in front of bland Britain, placed in the bland globe, and talked about the fact we're one planet. No, we're not, you silly old Doris. We are Britain, we are red, white and blue, and we should be putting the United Kingdom first. That's what we all wanted to hear, and instead she stood up and was about as interesting as lettuce after it spent 2 days in the fridge. So she's thoroughly disappointing, and of course Macron and all of the EU loved it, which tells you everything you need to know about what sort of speech it was.
And it doesn't look like we're going to get out anytime soon, does it?
No, it definitely doesn't. If I had to stick money behind what we need to happen in this country, we need Theresa May out, we need a Brexit leader in, and we need to start backing that and showing that we'll hurt the Tories at the polls, and we will if they don't get someone strong in. And I think Farage needs to do what he's doing and keep annoying in the media. Let Anne-Marie or someone else lead UKIP. I don't think they're going anywhere. But when it comes to voting, next time we get to vote, everybody needs to be voting for Brexit and whoever is going to deliver Brexit. And Farage has proven he is not the man for that job.
Now, before you go, what do you make of this posh medic at Oxford University who beat up her husband, her boyfriend, stabbed him with a carving knife, and the judge said she's an exceptional student and we mustn't wreck her career. She's not going to jail.
Oh, God. This country, sometimes you do just go, oh, would you please? I've seen the legal system at work. When people say, well, the law is the law, and I look at them and I think, no, it's not. The law is a bunch of old men who have basically got, political views of their own. They've got chums of their own. They're all networked together, and no doubt, somewhere along the line, her daddy knows this daddy who knows the judge, and so that's why it's been put in her favour. And I think things like Maddie McCann are a perfect example of where we see our society class divide very strongly, where the parents of Maddie McCann were kind of turned into this kind of hero figures because they lost their child, and they weren't ever prosecuted. And we know very well if someone from a council house had left their child and gone out for dinner, we know that they would have been absolutely taken apart by newspapers, including the ones I wrote for, whereas in this case with Maddie McCann and this posh girl, somehow we're supposed to be backing her. I say nonsense, and she needs to do the time. I do wonder how the boyfriend feels. It would be good if we got a microphone on the boyfriend who got stabbed and beaten up and see what he had to say.
Let me tell you, there's more stories coming out about Lavinia and her past record as well. But great talking to you, Katie. We've missed you. Thank you very much indeed for joining us today.